Hey, beautiful souls, welcome back to Cosmic Confluence with Sana, where we talk about what is really going on beneath the surface in your nervous system, in your energy, in your actual day to day life, not just on the vision board, listeners. So, if you feel wired but tired, snappy for no reason, or like your brain has, these 87, so many tabs open at the same time, this one is for you. So today, listeners, we are diving into nervous system regulation, stress management that actually fits into real life, low toxic living that does not require you to move to the middle of a forest, and the wild world of sound and vibration therapy. Our guest today is actually doing all of that in a very grounded way. Kristan Fiandach is the founder of Feel Good People, a modern wellness brand helping people regulate their nervous systems and also relieve stress through sound and vibration therapy. Well, she spent 15 years in the corporate tech world, listeners. She has lived that chronic stress and burnout story from the very inside out. Her own search for balance led her to vibration and sound therapy as a way to support the nervous system, helping the body shift from survival mode into a state of calm and safety. And out of that journey, she created Feel Good Mat, which is a full body sound and vibration therapy tool that supports stress relief, deeper sleep, and sustainable energy. And listeners, now she lives in Northern California with her husband and son, building a business while also living her values. And her philosophy is simple, listeners. Wellness should fit into real life. It is about creating safety in your body so you can feel and trust yourself again. So, Christian, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really happy that you are here.
I am really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Christian, very, very interesting transition because you left a world, you come from a world, where the conversations are normally around ambition, high achievement, hustle, all that fast-paced stuff that we usually, kind of before even stepping into the professional world, we kind of dream about. You spent 15 years in there before you created Feel Good People. Now, I would like to zoom all the way back for all of our listeners of Cosmic Confluence. What did, what motivated you, or maybe what exactly, gave the nudge to you in your body and your life to make those changes?
It was something that happened over time. Growing up, I was really encouraged to do my best, be the best, go to college, get the job, get the title, get the money, get the house, all the things, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's, our parents, they are always, wanting the best for us in most cases. So I think it always comes from a good place, but it instilled within me this, really endless hunger for more all the time. And so, I did all the things I was supposed to do, and that was really my focus. It wasn't my health. It wasn't what I really wanted. I never even questioned it. It was, this is what I'm supposed to do. I have the checklist in front of me and I need to go and check off the list. And I got to a place about 5-6 years ago where I had checked off a lot of those things and I was still just feeling really miserable, really unhappy. And, I slowly started to question, what am I eating? What am I drinking? Who am I spending time with? So you start to kind of I think I started to audit life. And I slowly noticed as I was stepping into a place of living more intentionally and thoughtfully, this inner knowing, this intuition, this, wisdom inside of me, the voice of that started to get louder and louder. And I started to be able to better understand who I am, what I want, what am I really here for? What do I really want to do? And a lot of that really required me to start really listening and taking action. Because it's one thing, right, to have this voice, in the back of your mind that's telling you, hey, this is how you should be taking care of yourself, or this is what you really want. And it's a completely other thing to start listening to and actually acting on it. So I decided I'd had enough. I was tired of not feeling good. I was tired of just feeling stressed out and sick all the time. So I started really leaning into wellness and just learning about wellness and learning about, how to live a healthier lifestyle. And that was really helpful. I still implement a lot of the practices that I learned just in terms of, what to eat, movement, and, just more physical stuff. And then I was still really struggling with stress. And I was really addicted to work. or dopamine, really. I think we have a real dopamine addiction challenge today. A lot of that has to do with, our digital connection, into what is it's just modern life. Like, it's hard to have a job and not be on a phone or on a computer all day long. So there was a real strong addiction to that. And that's when I started to look at, all right, what do I need to do to get more comfortable with being present? And that required me looking at different modalities. And I tried a lot of things, but what I got really, really into was sound and vibration. And it started with sound. I got into binaural beats, and I, would just listening to classical music, if I was feeling stressed out, would just instantly have this soothing effect on me. And then I got into vibration therapy. I was learning about how your skin, as your largest organ, is one of the biggest ways to activate the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is what's responsible for activating the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system that is responsible for allowing us to rest and restore. And it's in the rest and restore state that we heal, that our immune system is the highest, that our body can better fight off, diseases and manage fat stores. I mean, there's so many benefits to activating or regulating that part of the nervous system. And so I was using these tools separately, and I started thinking about how can I combine these together in a way that works with the modern lifestyle for myself, and I'm sure for others out there. And so that's when I had the idea for the Feel Good Mat. And I started working on that 5 years ago. And so now we've created a tool for people to use at home, and they can use just the vibration therapy, or they can use the sound with the vibration. And together it creates this really incredible experience where your body first through the vibration, and then your mind through the sound, come together to allow you to really deeply enter relaxation. And really what it's doing is it's signaling to your brain and your body that you're being soothed, you're safe, it's time to relax, you can calm. And that, that's my tool. That's a tool that, our customers use. But there's a lot of tools out there that is really important for people who are struggling with stress, who are struggling with burnout or overwhelm or these things. It's really important that we be diligent for our well-being to go and discover what those tools are for us. Because most of us are spending way too much time living in a stress state and not letting our bodies get into the rest and restore state, which is where we should be most of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You touched so many important, not only the gap or the necessity here, and kind of, the gray areas when it comes to wellness, but also from your own journey, which I could personally very much connect with, because we definitely, get that dopamine rush, when, okay, I'm working, I'm getting the results, okay, I'm getting appreciated, okay, I am just one step closer to my life goals, okay, this is my checklist, super, everything is going on. But then suddenly there is this, like a 180-degree turn in way that you feel yourself. You do not feel like yourself. You feel like you have lost that spark. You start to kind of judge yourself or question yourself that, is it because you are not talented, or is it because maybe something else is wrong? And I think that itself is so much difficult to kind of navigate. And I think not just the tools, but um, conversations should be around how we can actually realize or identify that, before even getting into that stage of burnout or self-doubt, how we can actually navigate through it, or kind of, prevent or mitigate the effects there. Because the trickiest part of, when it comes to burnout is that you do not realize that you are in burnout phase. And you feel like it's just kind of a phase, or maybe you're just, frustrated. You take 2 to 3 days of leave or vacation, then you are back to the pavilion. So I think that is something that I really personally connected with. And I think a lot of listeners will definitely connect, with those thoughts that you were sharing, that you have had. And also, Kristan, one quick question that also comes to my mind, especially for wellness. Um, there are so many modalities here, so many channels here. Um, in fact, to re- understand or assess or analyze which one is the best or better for me, sometimes it also kind of stresses so many people out there. So, how would you suggest, someone who is definitely now realizing, okay, I need to focus on myself first, then only I can show up for myself, show up for others, maybe I can do better. How do you suggest or advise them to figure out which tool is best for me, or what is the very first step they can start with on their wellness journey?
I think a great practice for somebody who's just starting to dig in, or even if you have found that the tools or the things that you were using or practices maybe aren't as effective anymore, is to have a piece of paper with you for like a week. And anytime you do something that makes you feel joy or good or at ease, just write it down. Whether that is, an album that you love to listen to, or going for a walk. I think we forget. I think when you were talking about you can't always recognize when you're in burnout, you can't always recognize when you've disconnected from yourself until you're almost like so far away, or you're at the point where you just want to quit your job, or you want to quit whatever it is. Like you've allowed yourself to go so far down the rabbit hole. And I think that happens when we don't implement and prioritize like self-care, or whatever you want to call this, right? Like my rituals, my practices, my self-care, whatever. When we allow fear of not being good enough, fear of getting fired, fear of what are they going to think? What are they going to say? It's really fear that motivates us, I think, to put our own well-being on the back burner. Because why would you do that? I mean, as a human being, like, you are instinctually like meant to survive and thrive, right? So it has so for me, it's always been rooted in fear anytime I've gone like way back to it. So I think going to the opposite side of that and seeing like what makes you feel joy, what makes you feel good, it doesn't have to be meditation. I mean, it could literally be, doing a puzzle. I don't know. It's different for everybody, but I think it is if you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you're of feeling stressed out, or seeing yourself go into these burnout cycles, it's time to get really serious and intentional about what are the things that you really enjoy, and then put yourself out there, but do the woo-woo things, do the thing that, your friends might think are weird, but you are really curious and interested in. Because I think, again, kind of coming back to it, I think a lot of people are curious about different modalities, but maybe they're like, oh, that seems so weird or different or out, but there's an interest there. So there could be a connection there or an experience for you there. So yeah, I think it's a practice, and it's not like, I often have to, I'll see myself, getting on the other end of stressed out. And I have to, even as somebody who's constantly talking about this, I myself, I love to work and I love to do well and I love to push myself. But I also know that my best work and my best self shows up when it's from a grounded, relaxed, regulated nervous system place.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense because first thing is, yes, I think that's the beauty here. We are all so different, but, biologically, although we may be from the same basic elements, however, I think it's not only the biology, but the soul here, the emotions here, the feelings here, because, for me, in fact, also, when it comes to sound, Kristan, like I have my favorite songs, or maybe singing, or listening to some instrumentals which are very calming, or maybe nostalgia. Sometimes it can also make us feel very calm, and or maybe coloring, or taking a walk, or feeling the sunrise or looking at the sunset. So many things, so many. And I think the good thing is that gradually and slowly people are recognizing the importance of, like what could be traditionally called as the woo-woo stuff. Because these are connected to our spirits, our souls. And not everyone's soul will only be doing meditation or only be doing a single thing, a common practice. But I think it is completely up to us, because, we get that agency of our own body, of our own nervous system, of our own soul. And secondly, Kristan, this also makes me curious, like, from a nervous system perspective, what are we getting wrong about stress management? Like, what does realistic regulation actually, like what kind of practice you do, especially when you get to vibration therapy or sound healing? What does it actually look like on any normal day? Let's say a Monday or a Tuesday.
Yeah, I think I have a couple answers to that question. I think the number one thing we get wrong, and I don't know if this is a global issue, because I do think some cultures don't live like this, but I can say most certainly in like America, and maybe, in countries where we really prioritize production and work and capitalism, I think we don't realize how much of a chronic stress state we're living in and how much it adds up. So we wake up, we grab our phone, we go downstairs, we drink coffee or black tea, so we add caffeine. Our cortisol levels are always high in the morning. So now you're adding so much fuel to a fire that's already biologic happening in the morning. Then we take care of kids, or we start, working and responding to emails, and we've got demands from our boss, or, demands at home. And so all day long, we just have these things that are happening, and they're part of modern life. They're just a part of what is required to provide for yourself and for your family. You have to go out and you have to work and you have to deal with, you know, crazy drivers and somebody at the grocery store. Like, that's just a part of life. And I think we let all those things add up, and we never like shake them off or kind of wash them off, right? And so on a good day, I start by, I don't even touch my phone. So my phone, I think the phone is one of the most triggering things on this call alone, and like phone calls and that like that call, so, and they're, are not even like important phone calls. They're just a bunch of calls. So anyways, so the phone I think is number one for me. I don't touch it from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I give myself like a good 12 to 14 hours if I can of just like no phone, so that I can be present with my family or my reading a book or whatever it is that I'm trying to do, or do nothing, just be. That's number one. And then, non-tox living is really important to me, or low tox living. There's a lot that it is important that we understand what is in our food, what is in our water, what is in the air, what is in your environment, because those things can stress out your body and your essentially your mind and your body. It's one thing, really. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm trying to choose things that are, as natural as possible, from, food products to cleaning products, all that, because it adds up. It's called a toxic load, and it's our environment. So I try to create a low stress, not like low toxic environment, because there are going to be things that are going to happen that are going to stress me out that I can't control. So I'm always trying to create an environment for myself that it is conducive to relaxation. Like, what are the colors in my room, and like what those fabrics make me feel? Do I like the way that shirt feels on my body? Does it feel soothing, or does it feel itchy because it's made out of plastic, right? There's like these little that will add up that you don't really notice are like kind of, causing you to feel uneasy. And then I incorporate physical workout every day, something, whether it's a walk, whether it's weights, whatever. I try to move my body and not be, seated for too long. Even when I worked in corporate, and it was really hard because I'd trying to put calls on my calendar all day long, I would just not show up sometimes. I'd let my boss know, but you really have to be just like really, really boundaries. Like, you have to implement boundaries at work and at home and communicate about what you need, and people will respond positively. I believe more often than not. I believe if you tell your boss, hey, I'm having, I'm starting to feel burnt out, I need some time, I'm sure they're going to give it to you. I know it's not every case, but in most cases. Same thing with your partner, with your family, asking for help. And I then always do vibration therapy, sometimes with the sound, but always vibration therapy, because for me, at the end of the day, that soothing experience just tells my body and my mind that we can let it all go now. Like, you're being soothed, you're safe, it's all good. Let's just relax. And it really helps me relax into the evening, and then sleep. I sleep better. I sleep like a rock. So a lot of that is because I'm, really protecting my peace. It's such a cliche thing to say, but you really have to protect your nervous system and protect your peace.
Absolutely. I was on this, I have so many thoughts. Okay, let me just, like one by one. So I was on this conversation with another guest. We were talking about, so she had done some research, and she connected with so people who are already like 100 years old, or maybe older than that, centenarians. And she had some amazing interviews with these people. And there were definitely some really common, commonalities in terms of, first thing was, of course, the food and maybe a bit about genes, but it's not the major contributing factor here. Definitely food. Another is sleep. So, and there's this simplicity in which they kind of, consider food and sleep as non-negotiables. And also another thing was, isolation. Because when we are so much with that dopamine rush, we are so knee deep into this, loop of working and working and working and kind of completely alienating ourselves, out of everything. I think we kind of tend to isolate ourselves. So devoting some time back to ourselves, our family, our loved ones, or maybe the good friends which, who we have, I think it's so much gets us back to a restored nervous system as well. And that shows up in your body, body language, in the way you talk. So yeah, I think all of these are so beautifully connected, Kristen. That's what I see here.
I completely agree with you. I recently had an experience where I was really craving more female friendships and free female connections because, I live with my son and my husband, so I'm male energy. My brother-in-law staying with us too, so I'm like, oh, I need more female connection, and I have, friends that I've had for years, and we talk on the phone, and that's nice, but I was really wanting that, and I had started, admitting that to myself, I think was like the first step, and I started kind of talking a little bit about it and putting it out there. I was telling my husband, I'd really like to make some more girlfriends, and I was going to, and then I signed up for a women's retreat that is 10-hour drive away from my house, so not even in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I had admitted to myself that this was a desire that I had wanted. I had spoken it out loud to my husband, their other friends and family of mine. And then I actively went out and I pursued an activity where I knew there would be women. Yes, not in my neighborhood, but I knew there would be women there. And as I was driving on this long drive by myself, I felt this incredible electric shock through my body. It was just, and the thought of female friendship was so strong in my mind and in my body and in this feeling that I, in that moment, knew that I was going there and I was going to meet women and a friendship. I was going to establish real solid friendships. I'm not kidding you. I do not live in a major city. I live in a 2,500 person town outside of Sacramento. And I get to this event, and on this first night of this event, this woman, we were camping, she walks by, and she lives in LA, which is where this event was, and she goes, well, you live in Nevada City? And I was like, yes. And she goes, oh, my friend so-and-so is here from Nevada City, and my other friend, I'm not even kidding you. I have made, in my neighborhood, I came back, we started hanging out, we go and do stuff together. I've made these friendships, and I tell this story because number one, it has made me feel so great having these new friendships, and it's something that I think I had been kind of not really wanting to invest in, but when I wanted to invest in it, I really did what I believe in manifesting, but I believe manifest comes from action. And so I just share that story because I really agree with you on so many levels of like wanting friendships or needing connection in order for us to feel to have like a fulfilled or well-being life. And I also tell that story because I just think people should know that voice that's inside of you, that intentional, that wisdom, that intuition, that part of you that knows what you want in life and the changes that you need to make and the things you need to do. It's speaking to you all the time. It's there. And you just have to acknowledge it, start putting it out there, what it is that you want, and then start moving in the direction of it. And then the things will come will come to support you in that way. I don't know like how spiritual this podcast gets, but so sometimes I'm careful with my words about what it is, but whatever it is for you, it will start to conspire in your favor. And I really, really strongly believe that. And I really believe that it comes from like you taking care of yourself, like supporting your own well-being, and like starting to move in the direction of the life that you really, really want, the things that you want for yourself.
No, I couldn't agree more with you, Kristan, on this, because yes, manifestation is actually very good because it also elevates our energy and the vibration. But then at the same time, action is also required because it gives us that direction. It's kind of, that fog begins to kind of clear. And we kind of see the mirror very clearly. And secondly, I mean, because life can be so unpredictable. But then I also absolutely believe that, there's definitely a higher power, but there's also power within us, which we sometimes forget that to kind of harness. And Kristan, because vibration and sound, I mean, personally for me, these two things, they actually, have so much meaning here. And you have built an entire brand around this, which I absolutely find fascinating. But then there are so many kind of, this fluffy stuff, like, maybe on social media or like a pretty studio, like only ASMR stuff kind of thing. So, if for our listeners, if you can help us understand what is actually happening for the nervous system when we use vibration and sound, and what is this marketing language as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's the nervous system is pretty simple. It is what dictates so much of our life. It is really simple. It is, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and restore state. And this is the state where you feel relaxed, you feel at ease. It is a state that we are meant to live in most of the time. Like, we should be feeling at ease. We shouldn't be feeling anxious or scared or fearful, but it belongs in the sympathetic state. And the sympathetic state part of the nervous system is the feelings that we get when we need to react to something dangerous. So it's usual. It's ingrained in us from the thousands and potentially hundreds of thousands from the beginning of time, right? And that allows us to know that we're going to be chased by a predator and we need to run or flee. So that part of us is as old as, as time, as humans.
Mm-hmm.
But it functions in the modern world in a way that it tricks us. So in the sense that email from your boss that gave you a little of sickness in your stomach and made you feel nervous, not actually going to hunt you down and kill you, but your nervous system thinks it is. So it doesn't matter what it is. So your nervous system is always seeking to feel safe. That's all it wants, is to just feel safe. So whether it's vibration therapy, whether it's sound, whether it's hugging a loved one, whether it's watching your favorite show or listening to your favorite song, or whatever it is, whatever tool, whatever thing, if it makes you feel calm and safe, that is good for your nervous system. So I think it is difficult for people to know for sure, like, what's going to work for. I think one way of kind of like seeing if vibration therapy is something that might work for you and you want it on like a grander scale, we have access to music, right? So go on YouTube, look up solfeggio sounds or binaural beats, or even just classical music. Any type of music that makes you feel like calm and relaxed is going to work. But if vibration therapy is something you're not super familiar with and you don't know, because there's a lot of different tools out there for vibration therapy. one thing that you can do is you can hum. So there is a song called Faith's Hymn. And I don't know if it's like one woman or it's a group of women, but it sounds like a group of women humming. And it's very catchy and it gets really stuck in your head. But if you play that song and you just hum along with it, or just hum on your own, I like the song. It's really beautiful and it makes me feel very elevated when I listen to it. I'm very connected. If that soothes you, then vibration therapy could be a tool. And there's a lot of different degrees of it. There's watches that people wear. There's mats like what we sell. But even just humming, someone reached out to me the other day and was like, I love your mat, but I'm not quite ready to invest. I sent them that soundtrack and I was like, listen to this and like, see if you like this and if this works for you. So yeah, I think start small and kind of see like, what are the things? But yeah, like I sell a product. There's a ton of products out there, but you really need a product to signal safety to your nervous system. You can just, typically go outside and listen to birds. Birds to your nervous system.
No. I mean, one thing I really, really appreciate here, Kristan, that you did not just give the benefits, or kind of like people would say, barging or just this barrage of information on me, but you just gave, okay, you take the first step, you try and test it out, whether this is something that works for you or not. And then you decide. And I think that is something that, especially when we talk about wellness industry, it's kind of missing out, because anyway, when we are seeking out for solutions, we are anyway in that mindset that, we need to have a quick fix here. But to be honest, there is no quick fix. It takes time. It needs time, because we are now transitioning into a healing phase here. And healing cannot be instant. I mean, I don't think so. There can be exceptions or miracles, but I think it definitely takes time. Something which is good and it's going to work out, it will take its own sweet time, because it's going to sustain. So I think that is something that I really, really appreciate that, you shared with all of us. Something I personally am definitely going to try out, because to me, sound or calming music, or there are some instruments, which really, really like connect with you, they mean a lot. Secondly, I think, it's very, for someone who has never tried a sound bath, or let's say a vibration mat, I think it's a very, good way to start with, not just a complete overhaul, but baby steps. And before we wrap up, Kristan, this is something, related, because you went from burnout to now a founder. It's kind of a very blunt question, but let's see. Like, how do you build a company? Because being a founder, being an entrepreneur, it is also definitely a very challenging part of journey, because you have like so many things depending on you. How do you build a company without recreating the exact same burnout pattern, especially when entrepreneurship can be even more intense than corporate?
Oh, I think about this often. You're the first person to actually ask me about it, because I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to feel that way again. And I know what it feels like to be in it. And it's hard. It is really, really hard. And especially when you feel like you have to be in it and you have to be there and you have to do it. I understand that feeling too. I was the main provider financially for my family at that time, and it just didn't feel like I had another option. So I have a relationship with my insecurities and my ambition, and that's how I put it now. I say, I have a relationship with that, because I have thoughts even now of I should be doing more, I should be working more, I should be going harder. But I made this commitment to myself because I really truly believe it that you can be successful and you can enjoy your work and your life without feeling terrible, but you have to be willing to commit to that and see it through. So even before I left corporate, the last, I would say 3 years, I decided that I wasn't going to respond to emails after 6 p.m. I wasn't going to answer my boss's, phone call on the weekend or whatever, right? And I decided, coming back to writing down on the piece of paper, I wrote down on a piece of paper what I wanted my day to be, even when I was working in corporate. And I decided to commit to that. I didn't always get it right. There'd be certain periods where I let my fear of being fired or, not hitting my numbers or not being good enough, I would allow that to dictate my movement throughout the day. And, so, it's a relationship. It's a practice, and you have to recognize that it's a fear. It's an irrational fear, and that honestly, I think everyone has it.
Yes.
I don't know a single employee that I've had or someone that I know that works that isn't afraid of getting fired. Like, it's like a real fear that people are just not being good enough, as like not good enough and not working hard. So I'm trying, and I'm focused on, my commitments to putting my phone away at a certain hour and not responding to things. I think that's the biggest one. The biggest boundary that you can have in your relationship with work is having a dedicated time where you're just like off and like not touching it. And that's really hard for people whose job is like mostly digital, right? Like emails or things like that. So if you work, in retail, it's a little bit easier because you like know your hours. So it's like yeah. So yeah, I have a relationship with it, and I'm gonna try my darndest because I know how miserable, it can be, and I don't want to go back to that. And I spend a lot of time talking to former coworkers or my customers that I have about get over that fear because or addiction, some of it's work addiction. It's like I just got to get one more thing done and then I'll feel good and then I'll feel complete. And it's like, no, you won't. Like there'll be another thing and another thing, and it's like it's endless. So yeah.
I mean, I really feel you, Kristan, because, and it becomes a huge dilemma. I mean, first of all, people around us, they would like question your decision because they'll kind of, obviously maybe their opinions are coming from good intentions, that you are jumping from a point of stability and maybe defined working hours to now something, where although you have the full autonomy, but then you have to invest a lot in here. But then personally, if I feel that this is something that really aligns with what I wish to do, and I do get the agency, I do get to decide what I can do, when I can do, why not? And it's such a I think common tension that many people are right now facing, because they're transitioning from something which is accepted traditionally or conventionally, something where there's a lot of risk. However, it's kind of a sweet risk that you are. I'm okay. I'm okay to take it, but this is something that is aligning with what I actually want. And then it really feels good, when you also feel that you're doing good. There are people who are actually appreciating you, and I think I wouldn't mind that kind of validation, even if maybe my alter ego would doubt it, or I would feel like, okay, I am not working the entire day, or maybe I'm losing something out here. sometimes you'll get that, as you said, Kristen, you'll get that kind of feeling. But I think um, the decision which aligns with your inner self, not your inner critique, I think let's not look back at what has happened. Let's just go forward. And I think that kind of resilience, it takes its time, but then I think it is difficult, but I think, there's a kind of a satisfaction, a fulfillment that it's a gift. So I definitely feel you there.
Yeah, you touched on something. I feel like I could talk to you forever. You touched something really interesting around the leaving the stable thing, but then you're doing the work that you feel really aligned to. And I would say I've had all those feelings that you've discussed. The when I first thought about leaving, I thought, how can I not be so grateful for where I got to? And I had this feeling of guilt. It was really bizarre. Uh, but, I found, and I'd be curious to know if you found this too in doing your podcast and any aligned work that you do, it is to move in the direction that your being desires. I say heart, mind, whatever, but your being wants to go to this other place and do this other thing. And so the physical things, the money and the title and the stability and all that it doesn't become as important anymore to this like cry from your soul that you have on, and you're like, I'm willing to have this faith and just have this faith that life will work out for me and things will work out. And, I don't know what that means, but for me, I don't know where I'm gonna land, right, with this. But I can say that I had the call, I had the voice, I had the thing, whatever it is, the spark, the thing, and I moved in the direction of it. So how could it not work out? I don't know, like that's kind of where I go with it mentally, or maybe I have to go with it mentally in order to keep on the path, because it has not been an easy path. There have been a lot of time people are like, are you sure you want to keep going? And I'm like, yeah, I have to keep going. I don't think you understand. Like I think a lot of the time the difference between success and unsuccess is you just like don't give up. And I know there's a lot of talk now doing about like knowing when to give up, and maybe like I will, but like right now I feel like nope, we just keep going.
That is the biggest thing. That is the main thing. Like what you're doing. So yeah. I think sometimes we have to kind of box in some of the things and just keep on going.
Yeah.
Well, oh, okay, Kristen. So before we wrap up, listeners, if they would like to explore more about the feel good people, feel good mat, about the I would say the revolution that you're bringing in with the sound healing and vibration therapy. If they would like to connect with you, like to share their thoughts as well, what would be the best medium to connect?
Yes. So feelgoodpeople.com is our website. At feelgoodpeople_ is our Instagram. And then if you want to connect with me personally, which I am always happy to connect and exchange DMs about anything, Kristan_feelsgood on Instagram.
Wonderful. Listeners, what I'll do for all of you is have all the details and links in the show notes. So connect with Kristen, explore feel good people, explore the feel good mat, and explore the wonders of sound healing, vibration therapy. If you think that they will work for you, and Kristen, such an honest conversation, because we kind of, connected on so many levels here. Our bodies, our nervous systems, our souls, our journeys. And I think that's what it is. I mean, it is messy, but then sometimes there is this kind of, you know, uh, fulfillment that we find in that messy middle. So thank you so much. Thank you. This was a really amazing conversation.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
So to all the beautiful souls out there, here are your takeaways. You do not need a perfect morning routine to deserve regulation. You do not need to buy every wellness product out there to have a calmer nervous system. And you definitely do not need to wait for burnout to hit rock bottom before you start listening to your body. And your nervous system, it hears everything, by the way. The way you speak to yourself, the pace you move at, the rest you give or deny yourself. So today, or maybe tonight, give your body one tiny signal of safety. Maybe one breath, one song, one quiet moment before you sleep. I'm Sana and this has been Cosmic Confluence, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.